Grantaraj Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Shri Guru. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
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 Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
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 Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
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 Hare Krishna. Last time I gave class, March was also here. He came after that and said, nice class, you gave a nice class. So I'm not sure if he's also watching and listening again. In any case, Maharaj, please bless me and all of us. So we are reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. Maharaj actually gave the last class and he read up to text 6 in chapter 23 of the Madhya Lila, and this is still the part where Mahaprabhu is instructing Sanatana Goswami, and this chapter is called Life's Ultimate Goal. So we will read a few verses, and on the board we have text number 13, which has a lengthy purport. You can read. So I will just read the verses now myself. Sangyanma Shrinita Svanto Mamattvati Shayan Kitaha Bhavasa Eva Sandratma Buddhai Prema Nigatyate. Translation: when that bhava softens the heart completely, becomes endowed with a great feeling of possessiveness in relation to the Lord, and becomes very much condensed and intensified, it is called prema, love of Godhead, by learned scholars. Purport: this verse is also found in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Text 8. Ananya mamata vishnau mamata prema sangata bhaktirityuchate bhishma praladudhava naradhai. Translation: when one develops an unflinching sense of ownership or possessiveness in relation to Lord Vishnu, or in other words, when one thinks Vishnu and no one else to be the only object of love, such an awakening is called bhakti, devotion, by exalted persons like Bhishma, Prahlad, Uddhava and Narada. Purport: this verse, quoted from the Narada Pancharatra, is found in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Text 9. Now here is a Bengali verse. Kona bhake kona chiv shraddha yadi hai tabe se jiva sadhu sangaye karai. Translation: if by good fortune a living entity develops faith in Krishna, he begins to associate with devotees. Text number 10. Sadhu sangha hoite hai shravana kirtan sadhana bhakti hai sarvanartha nivartan. Translation: when one is encouraged in devotional service by the association of devotees, one becomes free from all unwanted contamination by following the regulative principles and chanting and hearing. Anartha nivritti hoile bhakti nishta hoy, nishta hoite shravanadi ruchi upajay. When one is freed from all unwanted contamination, he advances with firm faith. When firm faith in devotional service awakens, a taste for hearing and chanting also awakens. Ruchi hoite bhakti hoy, asakti prachura. Asakti hoite chitte janme, Krishna prityan kura. Ankura. Prema Ankur. After taste is awakened, a deep attachment arises, and from that attachment, the seed of love for Krishna grows in the heart. And now we can chant together. Se bhava gada haile dhare premanam.
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 Se prema prayojan sarvananda dham.
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 Yes, you can chant.
Se bhava gada haile dhare premanam.
Se bhava gada haile dhare premanam.
Se prema prayojana sarvananda dham.
Se prema prayojana sarvananda dham.
Se bhava gadha haile dhare premanama.
Se bhava gada haile dhare premanam.
Se prema prayojana sarvananda dham.
Se prema prayojan sarvananda dham. Matachis.
Se bhava gada haile dhare premanam.
Se bhava gada haile dhare premanam.
Se prema prayojana sarvananda dham.
Se prema prayojana sarvananda dham.
Word for word translation. Se bhava,
Se bhava,
that emotional condition.
the emotional condition.
Gada haile,
Gada haile,
when it becomes intensified.
when it becomes intensified.
Dhare,
Dhare,
takes.
takes.
Premanama,
Premanama,
the name, love of Godhead.
the name of Godhead.
Se prema,
Se prema,
that love of Godhead.
the love of Godhead.
Prayojana,
Prayojana,
the ultimate goal of life.
the ultimate goal.
Sarva Ananda Dhama,
Sarvananda Dhamma,
the reservoir of all pleasure.
the reservoir of all pleasures.
Translation. When that ecstatic, emotional stage intensifies, it is called love of Godhead. Such love is life's ultimate goal and the reservoir of all pleasure. Purport. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur summarizes this growth of love of Godhead as a gradual process. A person becomes interested in devotional service by some good fortune. Eventually, he becomes interested in pure devotional service without material contamination. At that point, a person wants to associate with devotees. As a result of this association, he becomes more and more interested in discharging devotional service and hearing and chanting. The more one is interested in hearing and chanting, the more he is purified of material contamination. Liberation from material contamination is called anartha nivritti, indicating a diminishing of all unwanted things. This is the test of development in devotional service. If one actually develops the devotional attitude, he must be freed from the material contamination of illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. These are the preliminary symptoms. When one is freed from all material contamination, his firm faith in devotional service awakens. When firm faith develops, a taste arises, and by that taste, one becomes attached to devotional service. When this attachment intensifies, the seed of love of Krishna fructifies. This position is called priti or rati, affection or bhava, emotion. When rati intensifies, it is called love of Godhead. This love of Godhead is actually life's highest perfection and the reservoir of all pleasure. Thus, devotional life is divided into two stages, sadhana bhakti and bhava bhakti. Sadhana bhakti refers to the development of devotional service through the regulative principles. The basic principle for the execution of devotional service is faith. Above that, there is association with devotees, and after that, there is initiation by a bona fide spiritual master. After initiation, when one follows the regulative principles of devotional service, one becomes freed from all unwanted things. In this way, one becomes firmly fixed and gradually develops a taste for devotional service. The more the taste grows, the more one desires to render service to the Lord. In this way, one becomes attached to a particular mellow in the Lord's service, Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya or Madhura. As a result of such attachment, bhava develops. Bhava bhakti is the platform of purified goodness. By such purified goodness, one's heart melts in devotional service. Bhava bhakti is the first seed of love of Godhead. This emotional stage is therefore before one attains pure love. When that emotional stage intensifies, it is called prema bhakti, or transcendental love of Godhead. This gradual process is also described in the following two verses, which are found in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Maybe we can just also read that verses since it is connected. Ado Shraddha Tatta Sadhu Sangota Bhajana Kriya Tatta Narta Nivrittisya Tatta Nishta Ruchistataha Atta Saktis Tato Bhavas Tatta Prema Vyudanchati Sadhakanam Ayam Premna Pradurbhave Bhavetkramaha. In the beginning there must be faith, then one becomes interested in associating with pure devotees. Thereafter one is initiated by the spiritual master and executes the regulative principles under his orders. Thus one is freed from all unwanted habits and becomes firmly fixed in devotional service. Thereafter one develops taste and attachment. This is the way of sadhana bhakti, the execution of devotional service according to the regulative principles. Gradually emotions intensify, and finally there is an awakening of love. This is the gradual development of love of Godhead for the devotee interested in Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine. Hare Krishna. I was just one thing I wanted to share while singing the song. I was thinking of something Keshav Maharaj was saying, I think when he was here also, maybe in a class online, that our practice of devotional service, we are doing the same thing basically over and over again, but by practicing it all becomes more deeper and deeper and deeper. And he was making that point that, for example, when we sing a song, in the beginning we just basically produce sound. We sing the song, but we don't know the meaning, we don't know the names. But then when we practice more and more, then it becomes more real. And especially singing this song, hearing about Srinivas and Ramachandra and Narottam, it's very recommended to go to these holy places. Sanadi Gaurangi just came back from the Dham. And I myself, this time I went to the Samadhi of Narottam and also Ramachandra's home and Srinivasacharya's home. So then when we sing the song, all of a sudden we feel much more connection. We feel like, wow, I know this person in some way. So just wanted to share that. That the process is very scientific, and if we engage in it, but of course for this we have to take some austerity, we have to go to the holy place, and we have to tolerate all kinds of things in India, and in this way we can get the benefit. So here in this section we hear about the stages of devotional service, and the last verses are very famous. They're from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and actually in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that's the only mention of these stages. And then we know later on Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he took these verses and elaborated in his Madhurya Kadambini, which Krishna Premarupa Prabhu is very expert, so actually if he would be here he could give a nice class. And I was thinking that why is it so important, why is it actually mentioned? Mahaprabhu himself, he gives it to Sanatana Goswami, and then later on it comes to the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu via Rupa Goswami's writings, and it becomes more developed by the succeeding acharyas like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and later on even ISKCON devotees, they're writing some commentaries. So why is it important? And for this we have to understand that the Vedic scriptures, in some way you can compare them to a catalog which basically offers you different kinds of products. Or maybe another example, a catalog for holiday, which shows you different destinations like Bahamas and Hawaii, Spain, nice pictures, and then what you can do and where you will be staying and how is the weather. All these kind of descriptions are there in a catalog. And similarly the Vedas, they give very vast options what we can do with our life. They, for example, our Guru Maharaj also, many times I heard him say this, he said, the Vedas say, okay, you want to become a king, no problem, do this. You want to go to the heavenly planets? No problem, do this. You want to become very powerful? No problem, do this. In this way, the Vedas give very elaborate description of how we can fulfill our desires. And we know that all these desires can basically be grouped into the Purusharthas, the 4 goals of human life. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. And basically we can further divide them into karma and jnana. And in some way yoga, but yoga also belongs to jnana. Meaning the desire to enjoy this material body and the desire to renounce the material body. But then, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially, even though it was mentioned in the scriptures, he highlighted the 5th Purushartha, the Pancham Purushartha, which is prema. And prema is love of God. And actually in the scriptures we find many verses which say that in comparison to prema, all the other 4 goals, they are like insignificant. Because the amount of happiness one can achieve by these other 4 is so limited in comparison to prema that the scriptures actually point out that prema is the ultimate and the only goal. And if we look at it more closely, not only is it the highest, but it is the most natural goal of the living entity. And this is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Nityasiddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kavunai Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karaya Udai. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. So prema is not only the highest goal, but it's the only natural goal for the living entity, because the living entity actually has love already in the heart. And if we go one step further, every other desire we have is basically a misdirection of that prema. Prabhupada mentions that also nicely in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, when a living entity comes in contact with the material creation, his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust, in association with the mode of passion. So the material nature will pervert this love of Godhead into lust. Or in other words, the sense of love of God becomes transformed into lust, as milk in contact with sour tamarind is transformed into yogurt. So that kind of deep understanding we find in the scriptures, that this prema is actually the only natural position of the living entity, and now we are living in a situation where that same prema is directed towards something temporary, which is actually, it's also Krishna, it's also God, but it is not directly directed to God, but it's directed to some aspect of God, and in this sense it becomes material, it becomes lust. So therefore, the scriptures, they basically tell us that we should focus on this prema pumartan. We should focus to develop our Krishna consciousness and develop love for God. And by taking these quotes from the scriptures, we come to understand that actually it's not something that we have to acquire, but it's something which is there, and now we simply have to cultivate it. We have to develop that. And therefore this description becomes very important, because it shows how this prema is developed. Like if you have a plant seed that you want to develop, you need to know a little bit. Like Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu is a very good gardener, and for him, he knows how, because he has so much experience, he can take a seed and immediately he knows what to do. But let's say I take a seed of some specific plant, I will somehow need some directions. How can I transform that seed into a flower? So that's why this description is there in the scriptures, so that we can actually develop that love. Because love now for us, it's something we actually don't know what it is. It's something we cannot understand, and even so it's important to hear about it, but at the same time we have to understand, as long as we're not on the platform of love, we cannot fully understand what prema means. We are saying that the Vedas are like a catalog which give you different destinations, and they give you different options of what you can do in your life, and ultimately they give you Krishna Katha, they speak about Krishna, and in this way they can develop in you that desire for Krishna Bhakti. And there is some very nice examples of devotees who have developed that ultimately prema, but primarily the desire to attain Krishna. And one we find in Krishna Lila itself, when Krishna was present. During that time, you might remember how when Krishna left Vrindavan and he basically assumed the position as a prince, and then he moved to Dwaraka, at that time there was one kingdom, it's called the Vidarbha kingdom. The Vidarbha kingdom, which was ruled by Bhishmak. And this kingdom, actually these kingdoms, that's not fiction, but these kingdoms, they were really existing, and there were many kingdoms, but this Vidarbha kingdom was basically in the middle of India, and this King Bhishmak, he had one daughter, Rukmini. And this Rukmini, she simply, because you can understand, Rukmini, being a princess and living at the house at the palace, being the daughter of a very influential king, many sages would pass by. And what would the sages do? Like Narada Muni, they would speak about Krishna. And simply by Rukmini hearing about this Krishna Katha, she developed a desire to attain him. She not only attained him, but to marry him. And we know the story how actually everybody was favorable to that, because she expressed that desire to her father, as far as I remember. And her father and the relatives, they all found Krishna is the perfect match for Rukmini. Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maya Ki Jai, Shri Gaura Ki Jai. So basically everybody was clear that that's a nice choice, but what happened is that the eldest son of Bhishmaka, Rukmi, he was envious, so he didn't want that his sister will marry Krishna, so he arranged that Shishupal will marry her. And then she wrote, she never saw Krishna, basically. Of course, she's the eternal associate of Krishna, but in this Leela, she never saw him. But she fell in love. She was on the platform of love, and she decided to write a letter to him. She sent it via Brahmana, and in that letter she described her position, and she requested Krishna, please come and rescue me. And she even told him how to do that. And so eventually Krishna came as the hero, and he kidnapped Rukmini and he married her. Another story Prabhupada tells is of the thief in the Bhagavatam class. Prabhupada, there's actually an audio recording of that story. Prabhupada describes how there was one Bhagavat reciter, a professional reciter, and he would speak about, as all the professional reciters do, the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna Lila. He will not speak about the Srishti Lila or how Varahadev lifts the earth with his tusk. That is not so nice. He will only speak about Krishna Lila. So, and the thief, he was sitting in that lecture, he heard about Krishna, and somehow this when he heard about Krishna, how this young boy, a cowherd boy who goes out in the field and he has so much jewelry on him, valuable diamonds, gold, etc. Being a thief, he thought, I should go to Vrindavan and steal that jewelry from Krishna. So he went to Vrindavan, and again, like Rukmini, also that thief, if we only had so much faith that by hearing about this person, that we want to go to the person, we want to see that person, we want to see Krishna. And yeah, we can say, yeah, it's another thing. Rukmini, she was living while Krishna was present, and so many excuses. But actually, we should take the scriptures and the words of the pure devotees in a way that Krishna is present, and on the absolute platform, we can actually have a rendezvous with Krishna. If we become serious, we can meet him. But that's the good fortune of these persons who, by simply hearing something, they immediately develop that faith and attachment. So the thief went to Vrindavan, and actually I don't remember the whole story in detail, but he met Krishna, and at that time he still was somehow focused on his mission. So he told Krishna, please, you give me all your jewelry. And Krishna said, I cannot give it to you, because if I give and I go home, then Yashodamai will be very upset. She will be very upset. So, and of course he got transformed, and he actually developed that pure attachment for Krishna. To see, I made some notes. So yeah, that's why it's so important to hear about Krishna, to become attracted, and especially we should hear about this topic of what means to be situated in pure love. Premanjita churita bhakti vilocanena sadarida yeshu vilokayanti. That basically, if you translate that verse, it means that you are always in connection with Krishna. You're always with him, because you can see him in your heart all the time. And it's important also to understand that when we hear these descriptions or when we hear these verses, because of, again, not really understanding what it means, it can become a little bit a mechanical or impersonal understanding of something like, okay, I plant the seed and I water it and it will grow, and then I put it in my heart and then it's there. But actually it's not like that. It's more like Krishna is coming. He's agreeing to stay in our heart. It's a personal thing. He at one point decides that, okay, I trust him, I trust her, and now I will not go away from that person anymore. I will situate myself in the heart. And so these stages, they are described. It can sound a little bit mechanical, but it's actually not. It's like if you develop a relationship on the material platform, it also has different kind of stages. And one thing I was reflecting on is, if we look on the material platform, how a relationship can develop, it can actually also go to a very, very high level of two people becoming inseparable. Like when a pure devotee has love of God, he is inseparable from the Lord. On the material platform, there can also be some development of love, which is almost not same, but a person becomes inseparable. And we also hear in Mahabharata how when Pandu, he left his body, Madri and Kunti, both of them, they wanted to die with him. In other words, they didn't want to tolerate the fact that I'm not with him. And of course that needs some understanding that I'm a spirit soul and I can actually continually associate with that person. And when that love on the material platform reaches that platform, these two souls actually can stay together, because we know from the story Madri, she then, so they were fighting who can go and jump into the fire, and it was decided because Madri only has 2 children and Kulti 3, she will stay back and take care of the children. Madri will jump into the fire. So Madri, she actually, by burning herself, her soul follows the husband. So that's how deep that love is. We cannot even imagine and conceive of it nowadays. And we can also understand that this kind of love, it doesn't just happen by chance, but there is a certain cultivation. And that cultivation, of course, has to be on a very high level of sattva gun, because it has something to do with understanding that I'm a spirit soul, etc. What we see in this material world, because the relationship is only on the platform of the material body, it not only doesn't come to that stage, but often it breaks up much before. And so we know that when a person like that is willing to die in the fire to follow that person, there has been a serious cultivation before which led to that point. And like we hear here about cultivating prem, there is different stages. And so these stages are Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, Prema. 9 stages. These stages can be understood as being a part of a plant. Like Prabhupada also, he pointed out that Bhava is the fructition of the seed, he said in the purport. And that basically means that the seed is Shraddha, and the Bhava is like the bud of the flower, and Prema then will become ultimately the flower, the goal of the plant. But the whole plant is there, meaning that all is connected. The flower is connected with the seed, with the roots, with the stem, with the leaves, and Prema is the ultimate, it's the goal, but everything is there, meaning we cultivate Prema means everything is there. Sadhu Sangha is there, Bhajana Kriya is there, Anartha Nivritti is there, Ruchi, Nishta, all these things are included in the whole process. And yeah, this description is given because we don't know the goal really. Then, like if you want to go to a destination and you don't really know the destination, then it will describe to you, okay, you go left so many meters, then you turn right, and then you cross that, and ultimately you reach the goal. In a similar way, these stages are given to us by the acharyas so that we can orient ourselves. Okay, where am I standing? Where am I going? Am I on the right path? Am I maybe on the wrong path? So there is many stages, but for the last, almost over, but for the last few minutes, we can just briefly mention how it's very important for us to see where we are standing. And for this there is also a lot of information in the scriptures, and the scriptures are meant, Srila Prabhupada gave these scriptures in order for us to understand these things, because it's a scientific process, so that we actually practice properly. And in order to understand, in Nectar of Devotion there is some symptoms of pure devotional service, which we probably remember, 6 in number, and they not only are they 6, but they also divided into three, namely sadhana, bhava and prema bhakti. And what do you remember? Which are the first two symptoms of pure devotional service? Meaning symptoms means the effects, what will happen in the life of a person who practices pure devotional service. Kleshagni. Meaning?
It means three gunas are not influence you.
Yes, you're completely free from suffering. Shubhada, meaning?
Beginning of all auspiciousness.
Beginning of all auspiciousness, which means, maybe you can define it more.
It's an interesting, I don't know the exact, for me it's like you start feeling bhakti and thus you become happy and you see a goal in the material existence.
Is that feeling? Prabhupada in the Act of Devotion, he says all auspiciousness means you become pleasing to everyone. And Rupa Goswami actually mentions Subhada in the sense that because you are developing bhakti, everything becomes pleasing to you and you become pleasing to everything. So you don't have any enemies anymore, nobody sees you as an enemy and you don't see anyone as an enemy. So these are the first ones, of course. Then later on it comes that moksha dalagu krit, that you consider liberation as insignificant. Basically what this means that even though you're suffering like anything, you don't care. But as long as we are suffering and we feel, oh, I need relief from that, we are not on that stage. Sudulabha means it's very rarely achieved. And then the last two are Krishna Karshini. Now we come to the platform of prema, meaning you actually attract Krishna. Like we said, now you're so pure that Krishna actually, he decides, I'm going to sit down in the heart of that devotee. And Sundarananda Prem, it gives you immense pleasure. Like it's described that this pleasure is so immense and intense that you cannot understand it. So the question is, are we still suffering? Who is free from suffering? Who feels that everything is all auspicious in his life? That probably nobody. That means we have not we have not completed the first stage. And the first stage is sadhana bhakti, and then the second is bhava bhakti and prema. So basically up to bhava, everything is within these, we are cultivating these two, that I'm free from suffering. Not that it's not that this is a conscious effort, I want to become free from suffering, I want to experience all auspiciousness. It's like something that happens naturally, because we focus on Krishna, then it happens. But these things develop in the life up to bhava, and in bhava and prema then the more exalted things happen. So that's why we can understand we are mostly moving in these stages, and from the fact that we probably still suffer a lot and we perceive inauspiciousness, we are more in the lower section. And not only that, but also when we read Madhurya Kadambini, then we can see how, just if you look at the stage of Bhajana Kriya, which is a famous example, there is many mention of, we can say, I'm practicing, I'm chanting, I'm listening. But then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he describes the bhajan, which is bhajan, but it's actually anishtita bhajan, which is, you practice, but it's not really bhajan yet. It's some kind of, you're trying. And that means you are basically below that, if you're not on that fixed platform. And I somehow remember that it's a personal thing I experienced. Some years ago I was speaking to one devotee in Switzerland, and somehow this topic came up, and I was a little bit naive. I kind of felt at that point that Nishta, there's many devotees on Nishta now, and this devotee say, you take it very cheaply, this Nishta. Actually, Nishta is a very high platform. And I just want to share one last thing, something I've been listening to now also in India, from His Holiness Bhakti-Vigyan Maharaj, some seminar. And he also makes the point, Nishta, if you study the symptoms, and philosophically it means Brahma Bhuta, meaning you're free from the modes, which is a very, very high platform. So that means we have to properly cultivate that bhakti. We cannot jump. We cannot, because, I want to have a nice flower, let's speed it up. A gardener knows it needs some time, it needs proper cultivation. And if I just didn't properly put the seed in my soil, then what's the use of trying to understand how I will trim the plant? Sometimes you have to trim the plant because it becomes too bushy. So as long as there is no leaves, then better you focus on how you cultivate the soil, how you nurture the seed. And Maharaj in that lecture, he gave very nice insight what actually, he was saying that basically from one stage to the other, they are all there, but then there's always a focus on one stage. And he was making the point that, okay, we are practicing bhajana kriya, but mostly not so fixed. And that mostly we are still somewhere on the platform of Shraddha. We didn't even properly cultivate that Shraddha. And he was saying that the symptom of having real Shraddha and coming to the platform of Sadhu Sangha is that you actually become very determined to systematically listen from one sadhu, from one pure devotee, that you understand this person is the key for me to attain prema, and you just soak whatever that person says in. Whenever you have time, and you try to really understand that. He was mentioning one point, and I will end with this, that, and I didn't hear him connect it to that verse, but somehow when I heard him speaking about this, I connected it to that verse, and I feel it makes nice sense. Another scheme we can take, we have many nice schemes in like these 9 stages, or then we have the sadhana, bhava, prema, bhakti, or another one mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion is the kanishta, madhyam, uttama, adhikari, and all of them can be kind of grouped in a certain organigram so that we can understand which one belongs to which. And we often hear that we have to come to the stage of madhyam, adhikari. And what's the symptom of madhyam adhikari? Given in the Bhagavatam by, I think, Kapila. Do you remember? There's many symptoms, but this is a famous verse which is quoted often. Prema Maitri. Prema Maitri kripopeksha yakaroti samadhyama ishvaretad adineshu balisheshu dvishatsucha. That a madhyama adhikari, he becomes expert in how he should treat different kinds of people. And it says that an intermediate or second class devotee called madhyama adhikari offers his love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is a sincere friend to all the devotees of the Lord, shows mercy to ignorant people who are innocent, and disregards those who are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Maharaj is making that point in that seminar, which I found very powerful and insightful, that depending on which stage we are on, there is a different emphasis on which of these different associations we cultivate. Meaning, in one stage, the emphasis is on how I develop my awe and reverence and love, in a sense, to the pure devotee, the sadhu. In another stage, the emphasis is on how I practice devotional service in the association of other devotees. And in another stage, how do I show compassion to some people who are below me? And that a devotee has to cultivate all these aspects in order to come to the platform of Madhyamadikari, where one is fixed, more fixed. So I think Madhyamadikari is also in some sense the personal nishta. And one interesting thing also in this regard is that once I heard my Gurumaharaj also saying that Prema Maitri Kripopeksha, know that this is mentioned that that you treat the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Guru with Prem, you treat other devotees with Maitri, friendship, you treat those who are below you with Kripa, and those who are envious you treat with envy. Those who are inimical you treat with disregard. And he was saying all of these are manifestations of love. Interesting point. No, if I disregard somebody, that's a manifestation of love, because I don't want to harm the person, and I don't want that the person. You just understand that if that person who is envious comes too close to me, he will harm himself, because he comes somehow in contact with Krishna, and I also will be harmed. And so this is something very nice to keep in mind, that we are practicing, there are these different stages, and we want to come to the platform of Prem, but we cannot just jump to the platform of Prem where we see Krishna in our heart all the time, and that also is described. That means I see Krishna everywhere, meaning the lowest person ever walks in and I feel, oh, the pure devotee has come and I'm so low. But that's not the intermediate. We have to take a step in between, and that means we discriminate, but the discrimination is based on love too. It's not that I disregard the person and it's somehow a negative feeling. No, it's still love, but manifested in a way which is appropriate to that devotee. And how do we, now the basic point, which, sorry, it's just a huge topic and I made this noise, and I find I should mention it because it's important for our practice. Now, another thing we can see it is that, like, if you construct a building, prema is like you're constructing a building, but before you can build upwards, you have to build downwards. You have to have a good foundation. And yeah, this point of Nishtha, I guess, is like a little bit the turning point where it actually slowly goes up. Before that, you're basically removing a lot of stuff. Like if you construct, you have to excavate the hole, and then you make the foundation on which you then can build something. But we are not exactly excavating and then filling it up. But there's also a way in construction where, especially when they put in pipes in a place which is difficult, they put in the pipe by explosion. Meaning they, for example, there is a road and they need to put a pipe underneath. I just give you an example to come to a point that they cannot just remove the road because it's too expensive. So what they do, they, from this side, with a huge explosion, press out the soil, and at the same time they put in the pipe. And basically that's what we do. And Prabhupada gave another example. He gave the example of the ink in the glass, in the milk. That if you have ink in the glass with milk and you want to drink the milk but you don't want to drink the ink, then what do? You just pour in milk, and at some point the ink will swim on top, it will just go out, and you will be left only with milk, and then you can drink that and enjoy. And that's the process we are following. It's a positive process. Yoga means plus, to add, and that was mentioned also, we hear and chant, and by this we remove all the negative things. And that's what we should focus on the most, that we really absorb ourselves in the process of hearing and chanting, in the association of devotees, and by this everything else will come. And it will lead up to the highest stage of prema. And so this hearing and chanting, it's there always. It is the primary practice on the stage of Shraddha and on the stage of prema. I'm not sure if it's primary, but one thing which I heard is that this sadhu sangha, and sadhu sangha basically means hearing and chanting, this is always the most important. That's probably mentioned also in Shiva Maharaj's book. Is in person CC even. That even though we come to a higher stage, the most important is always sadhu sangha. This is like the driving force. And sadhu sangha means hearing and chanting. Sadhu sangha doesn't mean I meet somebody and then we go out to the kino. Maybe he's also initiated, I'm also in, but sadhu sangha, no, we go to the Christmas market and eat some Bratwurst. So, yeah, so that's what I wanted to share, a few thoughts that came to my mind, and I think we are already a little bit over time. Thank you for your attention, and now there will be breakfast, and if devotees can please be ready latest by 9:30 so that we can do a quick mark cleaning. After that there will be many devotees coming and it should be clean. Thank you. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Vanchakalpa Sarvadharma ki jai.
Damodarprasad ki jai.
Actually, if you could speak English, or also you can also speak class. One second.
She's asking number of verses which you told in the
Number of verses in the end.
She wants to read in front of
Which verses? This Prema Mind.
Yes.
One second.
Это все?
No, I was thinking.
Your English is not too bad, no?
No, but too bad.
It's not.
You should both learn English, so we need
I can't give class without. I need to read. I need to make conspect and a lot of things besides it. I need time. My English is not good. I understand, but some words I completely know. So.
But you can learn, no?
I try, yes. I have vocabulary, so I make new words which I first and learn.
You are maybe later.
Maybe later. Because for us it would be nice now to have different devotees speaking. Because now this week I'm giving the second already, so it's nice variety. It's the model of enjoyment. Spiritual enjoyment. This verse is actually it's 11 canto, 11 to 46.
46?
Yes.
Значит, 11 том, глава 46 песня.
And in the middle you also said something, but Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu, and after something new, and after it was the last one. Something when you said? When you told about Rukmini and Krishna, something you said.
Well, I was reading from Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu. These verses, they are there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. What was it about? Because was it about that prem is in the heart?
Yes, yes.
You ask her, she
Yes.
wants to know it.
У любви в сердце, да? Вот это.
Да,
Я
сказал,
сам-
что вы следуете.
Yeah.
Стих.
You said
Только
when
Кришна будет особенно с тобой.
read this verse, Krishna will be with you.
It's Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna will be with you.
Like Krishna in the heart. Present in the heart.
Premanjita Charita Bhakti.
Yes, yes.
This is Brahma Samhita. I don't remember. Brahma Samhita, not so many verses she can find.
That will just
Alright. Premanjana is 538, Brahma Samhita.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
She's very interested in philosophy.
Yeah, good. We have a lot of books.
Да, да.
Ты мне скажешь,
Я
что-
вам пришлю.
где мне читать? В какой книге искать? Как там, я поняла, а вот это Брахма.
Самхита — это отдельная книга. Нет, есть все.
Есть. О, вообще супер.
Я вам пришлю.
Отлично.
Она была.